Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner. It's the moment that we've all been waiting for. Naru stands. How hyped are we? Dragonic Kaiser Vermilion, the blood is coming to standard. Bronto got spoiled and it doesn't suck. Yeah, like things are going pretty nicely for Naru's right now. It's just unfortunate that Descendant ended up not being good, but kind of not surprised at that. Like Bushiroad's been consistently bad in regards to supporting Descendant, aside from its first wave back during Bright era, but in any case, yeah, the blood's coming to standard. We're getting a Fighters Collection that is also a reprint set. Admittedly, it's a little suspicious at the timing of the set because it's right at the end of V, right before Overdress. So there's definitely that feeling that it's a bit of a cash grab and a lot of nostalgia pandering because the units in there are pretty iconic and loved by the player base. For the Blood, Chaos Breaker Dragon, Dauntless, like it definitely is the type of set that gets all the people go, my avatar is back, I must consume. But at the same time though, this set does have reprints for draw PGs, and from what I heard, each box gets you one of every card guaranteed except for the SPs and ASRs. So it's basically dual Devastator from Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is a really good set by the way. Like more sets like that are definitely needed where instead of just rolling the gacha, you get everything guaranteed. And I mean, you can also get singles, and from the set for what you need. We're getting 3 new units alongside the reprints for each clan, I think. So the Blood, I wouldn't be surprised if Crown Holder Dragon and some new Grade 2 that works, that works alongside the Blood is in there. As for what the Blood will do, I honestly don't know, because just attacking the front row with a crit and extra power doesn't really seem that impressive, especially in 2021 Vanguard, because that's when we'll get the set. And I definitely don't see the Blood being able to make a deck so good that you'll play it over Vanquisher, but who knows. It'll probably be a solid backup to Detonic's Drill Dragon in that deck, because I imagine this will clash with Eradicators, and he won't have a place in Vanquisher. If he does, then you know what? Fine, so be it. I've always really liked the art of the Vermilion cards, so at the very least, I'll pick up a copy of the Blood just because it looks really nice. Like, I've always felt that Vermilion and the Blood scream Narukami as far as their design aesthetic goes, and this artwork's pretty okay. Like, you get more of it in here as opposed to, say, the original, which was just like a close-up of his face. Is this the original artist? I don't think so. Like, Vermilion in V was drawn by a different artist than the original Vermilion. I think it was referenced though, but we'll go back. Wow, this wiki is slow. I just want to quickly compare, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of this video, being of Vanquisher. Oh no, I think it is the original artist. Well then, yeah, but in any case, so the Blood's coming, and I am excited about that. But now let's get to the real topic here, which is Dragonic Vanquisher FULLBRONTO. We got his effects revealed, and much like Descendant, it's different from the leak that we got. However, unlike Descendant, Bronto is still good. So, what does he do, and what are his supporting cards? Well, first off, let's talk about a promo that's also coming out alongside this, which is Dragon Dancer Barca. So, Bushiroad's got into this bad habit again of printing these really good promo cards that Japan gets, but North America doesn't, and that kind of creates a bit of a deck building disparity, because some of these promos make or break their clans. Like, Noob Atomic becomes so much better when they get their promo. Gear Chronicle got so much better when they got their promo. Granted, thankfully, Barca isn't that level of good. It's good, but it's not, you have to play this, otherwise Vanquisher is unplayable. It's just basically an alternative to Voltec Shred Dragon, as her skill is, at the end of the battle at attack, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you Soul Blast and bind a card from your hand to draw a card, and make your opponent move one of their back row units up the front. So it's a Voltec Shred that's also a Bolt Capture Dragon combined into one. Now, one thing to note between this and Voltec is that she makes you bind first, then draw, whereas Voltec Shred draws one, then binds. Therefore, I think you can actually get away with, you don't have to play with this card because she's good, but Voltec Shred means that if you have no cards in hand because you have to call everything down for one last push, you can still trigger his effect, which is relevant in case you happen to top deck a Bronto off of that. And why? We'll get in that to a bit. So, all in all, she's a good card. She's not staple like some of the other promos, and that's good. Now, as far as what we got with Bronto, we got him, we got Rock Climb Dragoon, and Chain Bolt Dragoon, which I expected to see. It was either that or like Wyvern Strike Bargs and Thunder Shout Dragon, but I don't think they're as nearly as iconic as units as Chain Bolt and Rock Climb, because these cards actually saw play in Vanquisher at some point. So let's get into what they do. So Chain Bolt, as I figured, would be the Nikki clone. When it's placed, look at the top 7 and add a Vanquisher from among those 7 to your hand, and then shuffle the rest back in. So instead of adding Bronto or Rock Climb, it's just either Vanquisher, which is good because this deck will play both. And then when it's bound from your hand during your turn, you call it to appear. So it's a Dragon, not a Dragon Dancer. Why do I keep wanting to call him Dragon Dancer Bajoran? Because that is definitely not a Dancer. So Desert Gunner Bajoran, but with additional upside on Vanguard Circle. Solid card, you're definitely playing 4. Then Rock Climb Dragoon, his skill is at the end of the battle it attacked. If your Vanguard is Vanquisher, Dragonic Vanquisher, mind you, you can retire it, draw a card, bind a card from your hand, and then you choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards and bind it. So it is basically a Jaggy Shot Dragoon on Grade 2. Granted, you have to have your Grade 3 Vanguard, which is actually an issue that they didn't deal with just yet. The fact that this deck doesn't have an early game, aside from Cho-Oh. And I think that could definitely be something that faster decks that can pop off on turn 2 can exploit, or decks that pop off on turn 3 when you've lost a die roll can also exploit. Looking particularly at you, Night Rose and Overlord. Then finally, we got Bronto himself. So skills are, this card is also regarded as Dragonic Vanquisher on Vanguard Circle. That fixes issue number 1, which would be this guy would have turned off Jaggy and Voltec Shred, which would have been kind of bad. Also, when it's placed on Vanguard Circle, your front row gets 10k until end of turn. Okay. And then finally, when it's bound from your hand, if your Vanguard is Dragonic Vanquisher, you can discard a card, ride this bound card as stand, it gets -1 drive, and then at the end of the turn, you do not get an Imaginary Gift Axel, but you also ride a Grade 3 from your soul as rest, and it's a hard once per turn. So, not too bad. Like, one of my ideas for full Bronto, as you guys might remember, was that at the end of the battle of attack, you count up as 1, bind 2, choose up to 1 Vanquisher in your bind zone, ride at a stand, it gets -1, it's a hard once per turn, and you also had some other effect. And Bronto ended up being pretty close to that. Like, what did you guys actually say for that poll? You sure you don't work for Pusher Road? These are actually pretty easy. Man, I am good at this shit. Pusher Road, hire me. But in any case, though, yeah. So Bronto solves one of the issues that the deck had, which was if your turn 3 being weak. Like, let's be honest here. Unless your opponent had a front row and you had Jaggy Shot, you weren't able to get that 10k buff off. Therefore, you weren't able to take advantage of the multi-attack shenanigans that Vanquisher could do. Bronto fixes that by just allowing you to swing with Vanquisher, swing with any of your hand binders, and then just ride Bronto and swing again. So you at least get an extra Vanguard attack, and then at the end of the turn, you ride OG Vank from your soul. Therefore, you now have that Grade 3 in the soul, so that on your next turn, you can immediately start ripping cards out of their hand and go from there. The fact that you don't have to wait until turn 4 is great because, like I said, with Dragonic Descendant, turn 4 cards are kind of bad in 2020. Then, let's see, what else do we got here? This card also doesn't care if your opponent has a border on. In fact, none of these cards really do. The fact of the matter is, the playstyle of Vanquisher is that you're binding your own cards to combo. Therefore, what your opponent does doesn't really matter as much now, which is great against decks like Night Rose and Shaharot, which make their board go away. And honestly, these cards and this playstyle, I think Rising Phoenix finally gets cut from the deck because you're not really binding your opponent's cards that often anymore, therefore it won't trigger as frequently. In fact, honestly, yeah, so given that you want to bind as many cards of your own as possible, I don't think you need Phoenix anymore. Like, your grade 1s are going to be 4 Mighty Bolt, 4 Chain Bolt, And finally, 2 copies of Bajon, because it's another attacker. And your grade 2s will be Rock Climb, Jotaro, Cho-Oh, and Voltec Shred. And then finally, your 3s will be Bronto, Vanquisher, and Jaggy Shot. As far as your ratios, that's undecided. I'm leaning towards 11 grade 3s myself. 4 Vanquisher, 4 Mighty. Oh my god, why do I keep doing this? 4 Jaggy Shot. And finally, 3 to 4 copies of Bronto. And that will probably be the deck. And what else can I really say here? Like, the deck definitely has a chance in the format, as it's basically just a faster version of last year's Vanquisher deck, which is all I really wanted. Like, it's not like this deck was awful to begin with in 2020. It's just that it was obviously slow by the standards of Set 8 onwards decks. So now, at least if you're going first, you can start doing stuff. Now, again, like I said, going second against aggro decks such as Overlord, Night Rose, Luard, and whatnot will be a bit of an oof, but if you can make it through that, you might have a fighting chance. And all I can really say is pick up your original Vanquishers, pick up your Shataras, your Jaggy Shots. Mighty Bolt is getting reprinted in this set, and we still have some commons and rares to go. Like, I will give Bujiro credit, all the Narukami spoilers, with the exception of the Jin up to this point, were pretty much Eradicator focused. We never really got anything that gave us any hints as towards what Vanquisher would do, and honestly, the deck doesn't need a whole lot, so I imagine this being a pretty Eradicator heavy set with a couple non-Eradicator cards to tech in the Vanquisher. The Jin's definitely not going to be one of them though, and if we can just get a better replacement for Voltec Shred and Bajon, I think the deck's kind of set. And as far as premium applications go, nothing's really changed. You're just going to play your standard plus Vanquisher deck, and you're going to use Stun first, go into original Vanquisher, and then go into full Bronto and end with original Vanquisher at the end of the turn, and repeat. All it really changes is that you're just going to be playing probably the Stride Fighter version of Mighty Vulture Goons, so you can search out your cards, and then you're just going to play the Stride Grit. And that's all I really got to say. So, all in all, I'm pretty happy with what Bujiro's done with Vanquisher this time. Like, they really did well with Vanquisher and Narukami as a whole in Standard. Like, this is pretty much one of the best ways that they could end this clan going into Overdress. We obviously will have to see what the Blood does, but all in all, Vanquisher is a really nice swan song for Standard Narukami, and I'm pretty happy with this. Like, obviously, I think this means that it's going to be a good while before Vanquisher, or rather just Naru as a whole, get anything going into Overdress. It'll probably be like late 2021 when we get their first batch of support in the new series. But this should be a pretty solid base to work off of going into Overdress. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say. So comment down below on your thoughts regarding FULLBRONTO and his friends, in addition to the Blood and whatnot. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, this is BlueStar899, jacking up.